My name is Naomi Thurman. I'm 32 years old, and just 15 days ago, I gave birth to my first son, the child I had dreamed of having with a man I, until recently, believed was the love of my life. The pregnancy wasn't easy, but every contraction, every fear, every sleepless night was worth it the moment I heard his cry for the first time. I still have the stitches, and I still can't sit down comfortably, but I don't care. Bringing this little boy into the world was the greatest thing I've ever done. I look at him sleeping and feel like I could endure any physical pain, any exhaustion, just to watch him grow up healthy. What I never imagined was that the real pain, the kind that can't be healed with painkillers or rest, was about to begin. This wasn't a surprise, an accident, or something we decided on a whim. We had spent years dreaming of this child, talking about names, cribs, wall colors, and how we would raise him together. We went through fertility treatments, waited months, cried when it didn't happen, and laughed when the test finally came back positive. Marcus came with me to every ultrasound, kissed my belly every night, and promised me we'd be the best parents in the world. I felt our love grow stronger with every beat of our baby's heart. But now I understand that not everything planned with love is ultimately built on truth. In the final month of pregnancy, I started swelling up alarmingly. The doctors diagnosed me with preeclampsia, which scared me more than I let on. I gained 55 pounds. I couldn't sleep because of the lower back pain, and contractions started early. The labor was long, complicated, and filled with fear, with doctors rushing in and out, monitors beeping, and my heart on the verge of collapse. He was there, yes, but his face held more anxiety than tenderness, as if the whole experience was too much for him. Still, when our son was born and I thought everything would be fine. Holding my baby was like touching heaven, a moment I wanted to freeze forever. Even as exhaustion split me in two, I felt that finally everything I had been through, the losses, the sleepless nights, the needles, the fears, made sense. Nothing mattered except that small body resting on mine, breathing with me. But that happiness lasted less than it should have, as if life had let me taste it for only a second before snatching it away. Something in Marcus's eyes that same day sent a chill down my spine that I chose to ignore. During the last month of my pregnancy, when I most needed him to hold me, to tell me I was still me, and not just a swollen belly, I felt him pull away. He came home late, locked himself in the bathroom with his phone, avoided physical contact, and always claimed he was tired. I tried hard to justify him, thinking it was stress, that men also felt fear about becoming fathers. But the truth is, my heart was already silently breaking, and I didn't want to see it. The distance was real and palpable. I asked him over and over what was wrong, why he no longer looked at me the way he used to, why he was always rushing out or falling asleep. The answer was always the same, delivered in a flat tone. It's just work. I'm swamped. It'll pass. I clung to that phrase like a life raft, as if repeating it enough times would make it true. But with every passing day, his emotional absence grew heavier, more obvious, and more cruel. It wasn't work, and I was starting to know it. Even though I didn't want to name it out loud, even though I repeated to myself that it was just stress, and that everything would be fine once we settled in as a family, something inside me wouldn't calm down. There were furtive glances, new silences, a coldness that hadn't existed before, as if I had become a nuisance. I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I tucked my doubts away like broken glass in my pockets, afraid they would cut me. But I couldn't ignore how I felt anymore. My intuition was screaming, and I was silencing it with forced affection. I started living with a broken smile on my face, and my soul full of questions. One average night. With the baby finally asleep after several hours of crying, I decided to take a quick shower to wash away the back pain and the soreness of cracked nipples. I dragged myself into the bathroom, feeling more exhausted than feminine, more mother than woman. The steam clouded my thoughts, and for a few minutes, I felt invisible, alone and calm. Stepping out, wrapped in a towel, I felt something strange in the air, as if someone had invaded my space without making a sound. The door was slightly ajar, and his shadowy figure was there, phone in hand. I froze. He was holding his phone, pointed directly at me. Although he quickly tried to hide it, it was too late. I saw it. My reaction was automatic, instinctive. I gripped the towel tighter, feeling heat rush to my face, not from modesty, but from distrust. I didn't understand what he was doing, or why he felt the need to photograph me without my knowledge in such a vulnerable moment. He mumbled something without letting go of the phone, and his nervous smile hurt more than any insult. That 1 second changed everything. Though I didn't fully grasp it yet, I didn't say anything immediately. I walked past him, and the air between us felt dense and unbreathable. I went to the bedroom and locked myself in for a moment, my heart pounding so hard my ears ached. Why did he need a picture like that? For what purpose? Who was he? I looked in the mirror now and didn't recognize myself. My body changed. My face exhausted, and a doubt sowing inside me like a poisonous seed. When I finally asked him what he was doing, he answered as if it were no big deal, as if I were overreacting. I just wanted a picture of you to remember what you look like now that we can't have intimacy. He said it without shame, as if it were a romantic gesture, a kind of misguided affection. I didn't know whether to cry or scream, so I simply told him to delete the photo. He agreed without resistance, with the calm of someone who already had another lie prepared. But something inside me no longer entirely believed him. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just repeated in a firm voice that he needed to delete those photos in front of me, that I didn't find what he had done funny or normal. He pretended to be offended, putting on a victim face as if I were just being hormonal. He repeated that he would do it. No problem. He took the phone, made a few quick gestures, and showed me the empty gallery as proof. But it was all too easy, too perfect, as if he knew exactly what to do to placate me without actually deleting anything. And I was left with that suspicion stuck in my chest like a splinter. That night when I lay down, he was already fast asleep beside me. But I couldn't close my eyes. Every time I blinked, I saw his face with the phone, his trembling hand, his lie disguised as normality. Something in me knew he wasn't telling me the whole truth, that there was much more behind that photo. I felt exposed, betrayed in a new way that was difficult to explain. It was as if my privacy no longer belonged to me. I tried to sleep, tried to think of something else, but my mind replayed the scene over and over like a non-stop movie. The gesture of his hand, his nervous expression, the click of the phone, his absurd explanation, all mixed with the baby's cries and my still aching body. I felt lick. Yeah, I was losing my mind that I needed answers, but I didn't know how to get them without starting a war at home. The worst part was that I had no one to tell this to without feeling ashamed. He was my husband, and yet I felt violated, as if by a stranger. The next day, when he got in the shower, something inside me clicked with a strength I hadn't expected. I went straight to his phone, my hands freezing cold and my heart hammering against my chest like a drum. I knew his passcode. I had seen him use it 1,000 times, but my fingers trembled as I typed it in. It felt like crossing a line you can never uncross. But I did it because I needed to know the truth. Even if it hurt more than I could bear, I went into the gallery first, looking for the photos, but they weren't there. Not in the trash, nor in hidden folders. Then I opened his messages, not quite sure what I expected to find, but knowing that if I was looking, it was because I already suspected. There were empty conversations, others deleted, but one group in particular caught my eye, a group of friends with a joke name and lots of emojis. When I opened it, what I saw stole my breath. The air stopped circulating in my body. There they were, unfiltered and undisguised, the photos he had taken of me coming out of the shower, completely undressed, my body changed by pregnancy, turned into an object of ridicule. He had sent them to that group as if I were a joke, an old trophy, a laugh among his buddies. I felt a surge of heat up my back, a rage, so strong it made me dizzy. What was mine, intimate, private, had been shared without my consent, as if it were worthless. In that moment, I knew something had broken forever. Right beneath the photo was his message. Look how fat she got after the baby. As if bringing his son into the world was something to be mocked. As if my body, worn out by the effort, was now only a source of contempt. It hurt more because it came from him, the man who claimed to love me, who swore his unconditional support. Seeing those words written down broke me in places where I had never felt fragile before. It was no longer sadness. It was humiliation. But the worst was continuing to read. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't stop. Like someone who sees an accident coming and can't look away, every word written by his friends was like a stone against my dignity. And among the comments, there was one that changed everything, that made me understand that the betrayal was not just emotional or digital. He hadn't just ridiculed me. He had lied to me on another much crueler level. One of his friends responded with a message that left me ice cold. Real heavy. Good thing you've got that prime light-skinned meat to eat. Carly. That name appeared like a bomb in my mind. She wasn't a friend of mine or a family member. She was a coworker of his, someone I had barely heard him mention. Someone who now suddenly had a proper name tied to his infidelity. It was no longer just a suspicion. It was real. I read that message over and over, trying to find another interpretation and escape, something that would make it less definitive, less devastating, but there was none. Only the need to confront the obvious remained. He had betrayed me, exposed me, and was laughing at me behind my back with another woman. I collapsed in silence. No shouts. No tears yet, as if my soul had shattered onto the floor. It wasn't sadness. It was decomposition. I didn't cry or scream. I just did what my survival instinct dictated. I took screenshots of everything one by one, with cold hands and steady fingers. I saved every image, every word, every proof of his betrayal, like someone documenting a crime. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it for myself, so I could never doubt what I had seen, so no one could call me dramatic. I wanted to hold the truth in my hands no matter how much it hurt. That I put the phone back exactly where it was with the same battery percentage, the same app soap. And, as if I had never touched it, I sat on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath, fighting off the nausea, the trembling, the emptiness. I didn't want to alert him. I had to keep watching in silence, coldly, no matter how much I was breaking inside. That was the new game. Pretend while uncovering the full truth. That night, I lay next to him as if nothing had happened, pretending to be exhausted, hugging our baby with a tenderness that broke my soul. I didn't sleep for a minute. I listened to him breathe easily, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I felt like a stranger in my own bed, my own house, my own life. And yet, I forced myself to smile at him in the morning as if I knew nothing. The following days, I devoted myself to observing everything with surgical attention, his schedules, his gestures, his calls, his mood swings. I no longer asked him anything. I no longer needed answers because I was collecting them myself, piece by piece. Every time he said, "I'll be home late, it's just a meeting," I made a mental note. I had become an audience member in my own marriage, waiting for the next act of his lie, and the more silent I became, the clearer everything appeared. Carly. That name began to resonate everywhere, as if she had been invisible before, and now shone with her own light. I remembered he'd once mentioned her in passing, a very efficient coworker, he'd said, as if it were meaningless. But now her name carried weight, a face, an intention that I went to social media, searched for her, and everything clicked with a precision that made my chest ache. I started looking backward with new eyes, reviewing every day of the last month, every supposed meeting, every quick work trip. In all those days, there was always something suspicious. The phone turned off, the carefully chosen clothes, the lack of an office smell. Carly was always there between the lines. One afternoon, I saw a text that left no room for doubt. "Tomorrow at the usual hotel," written by him. Replied to with, "Yes, my love," by Carly. EAD it without breathing. The lie was no longer suspicion. It was a certainty. That evening, as he was chopping vegetables in the kitchen, I knew I couldn't keep quiet. I looked him in the eyes and asked, "How long have you been seeing Carly?" At first, he feigned surprise. "What are you talking about? Are you crazy, Naomi?" His tone was condescending, like he wanted to make me doubt my own reality. But I held his gaze, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He finally sighed and admitted it. Yes, I'm with Carly. No tears came, just a coldness that froze me. And then he added with brutal selfishness, you just don't attract me anymore. Plus, we couldn't do anything during the postpartum period. Those words stabbed deeper than any scream. He blamed me for giving birth to a son. I looked at him, calm in my devastation, and said, I want a divorce. From that moment, he erased himself, not just from me, but from his child too. No calls, no visits, no help. Just the bare minimum of child support. I packed my bags with tears in my eyes and moved back to my mother's house, broken but determined. My mother held me together when I couldn't. She helped with the baby, offered me tea, listened to my cries without judgment. She became my refuge. Slowly, I rebuilt myself till I found a job, regained strength, and even joined the gym to feel alive again. I looked in the mirror one morning and didn't see a ridiculed woman anymore. I saw someone rebuilt, strong, and proud, and just when I felt whole again, he reappeared, asking for another chance. But I was no longer that broken woman. I simply told him, you no longer have power over me. It's over. He vanished again, and I raised my son alone. Time didn't heal everything, but it taught me to breathe differently. By the time my son turned 5, I was stronger, calmer, and aware of my worth. At a PTA meeting, I met Andre Hayes. His presence was calm, his voice gentle. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not invaded, not judged, just seen, and after so long, that was a gift. There were no fireworks or fairy tale promises, just coffee after school, unfiltered conversations, and a sense of peace that enveloped me when he was near. Andre didn't ask me to be someone else. He didn't want to save me. He just wanted to know me. And I, who had learned to build walls, started opening windows. Without realizing it, his company became a habit. He invited me to dinner one Friday night, and I accepted, my heart pounding like I was 15 again. My hands trembled as I put on makeup, as if the mirror wasn't used to seeing me so hopeful. At the restaurant, his gentleness was like a soft coat. No pressure, no hidden agendas. He listened attentively without interrupting, without judging. And for the first time in years, I laughed genuinely, but the most beautiful thing was seeing how he treated my son, not forcing a bond, not trying to win anything over. They played together as if they had known each other forever, with a connection that was born naturally. My son hugged him one afternoon without anyone asking, and that made me cry silently in the kitchen because I understood that I wasn't the only one healing. He was too, and he deserved that as much as I did. Opening my heart again wasn't easy. I had wounds that still hurt to the touch, memories that returned without warning, and fears disguised as caution. But Andre never tried to force anything. He walked beside me with patience, letting me set the pace. He showed me that healthy love doesn't pressure, it accompanies. And little by little, I stopped protecting myself from love and started living it. Our relationship wasn't immediate or perfect, but it was real. We learned to share without invading, to respect each other's space, and to talk even when it hurt. Andre didn't come to fill a void. He came to build with me from what was already strong. With him, I discovered that a family isn't defined by blood, but by daily care. And for the first time, I felt like I had a true partner. Did I look in the mirror now, and I don't just see a woman who overcame betrayal. I see a mother who never gave up. A woman who chose to believe again. I no longer carry shame or resentment. What happened to me doesn't define me. What I did with it does. I am stronger, freer, and above all, more aware of what I deserve. I learned that true love never wounds, never ridicules, never betrays, or silences. The love I deserve looks at me with respect, listens to me, waits for me, and values me. And above all, I learned that I don't need anyone to feel complete, but that sharing my life with someone who adds value is a privilege. I'm no longer looking for saviors. I saved myself, and no one can take that away from me. I look at my son and see a light in his eyes that wasn't there before. A peace born from the environment we built. I taught him with actions that respect is non-negotiable, that love begins with oneself, and that you should never stay where you are not valued. He is growing up knowing that his mother was brave, that she chose dignity over fear, and that fills me with pride more than anything else that I don't know the exact moment I stopped being a victim and started being the protagonist of my own life. But it happened. Maybe it was the night I slept without crying, or the day I said no without feeling guilt. What I do know is that I was reborn. From dirty ashes, smelling of betrayal and fear, a new woman emerged. Not perfect, but real, strong, and ready to never accept less than she deserves again. One day, without looking for it, I found that cruel photo in a forgotten folder on my phone. I looked at it with distance, like someone observing a stranger. Far from hurting me, it brought me tenderness because that broken woman in the image didn't give up. She didn't completely break. And she saved me without knowing it. Because of her, I am who I am today. I deleted the photo without ceremony, not out of rage, but because it no longer had power over me. I didn't need proof or reminders. What I lived through was where it belonged, in the past. And by deleting that image, I felt like I was closing the last door that had been left ajar. Today, I live peacefully in a small house full of laughter, toys, and sincere hugs. Andre and I aren't perfect, but we are a team. My son grows up surrounded by real love, the kind that doesn't hide or break with excuses, and I finally feel at home within myself. If I could talk to the Naomi, who was silently crying while hugging her baby, I would tell her, hold on. Not because he deserves it, but because you deserve it. You deserve to see the other side of the tunnel. You deserve to rebuild, to be reborn, to love, and to trust again. And above all, you deserve to never again doubt your strength. Sometimes people ask me if I still hold a grudge, or if I ever thought about getting revenge, about making him pay. The truth is, I don't. The pain he caused isn't erased, but I don't drag it around either. I learned that letting go isn't forgetting. It's deciding that something no longer deserves space in what I'm building. He was part of my history, but he doesn't write a single line anymore. Andre looks at me with a quiet admiration without the need for empty flattery or grandiose promises. He knows what I lived through, what I overcame, and he has never tried to compete with any of it. He just takes care of me. And I, who once confused love with dependence, now recognize love in the small gestures, putting a blanket over me without saying anything, washing the dishes while I put our son to bed, respecting my silences. My son is growing up free, loved, and secure. He has never asked about his biological father, and I haven't forced that conversation either. I know the day will come, and when it does, I will be ready to answer with the truth, without hatred. I will tell him that I was strong, but also human, and that everything we did for the love of the future, not the past. Some nights when the house is quiet, I allow myself to cry. Not from sadness, but from gratitude. For not giving up. For choosing the longest, but most dignified path. For every version of me that fell, crawled, and got up with a smudged face and a heart full of fear. That woman is still alive inside me. And I honor her memory, and that's how I end this story, which I didn't set out to write but which needed to be told. Because there are many Naomis out there holding themselves together in pieces, believing they can't take any more. To them I say, yes, you can. Not everything will be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. And when you can finally breathe without pain, you'll know that is also a form of victory. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story that on the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.